Okay, I'm going to do a second take at the top 20-ish tools. Could be a bit more than 20 depending on how you look at it. The previous video was, as with a number of my previous videos, and not the best quality at the moment, but let's see how this one goes. I think that you'd be able to see it well enough against the white background now. Let's move through them. I'm going to remove a couple of those that are around the outsides and blocking the view a little bit. Okay, so the glues, let's get that out the way. Not quite a tool, more of a material, but anyway, let's just say I use a mix of Tamiya thin and I'm not too fussed about thin, extra thin, extra thin, and the Humbrol glues. Okay. Sometimes on a surface I need a little bit more glue than what the thin provides before it starts evaporating. And we have the inevitable Tamiya tapes, 10mm, 6mm. Let's get them out the way. Now this all looks very fancy here. This interesting tweezers, which is better than that. And where did I put my other tweezers? And this one. So they're better than those two, in that when you hold something with this, you can very easily pop the part off across the room and never find it again. I don't use this much. I sometimes use that, not a whole lot, but it's better than that. This one is nice in that it'll actually grip the part, but after buying it, I honestly have used it only a handful of times, so we'll get that out of the way. But if I'm not using them, then what am I using? Am I using sharp nose pliers? Not really. Here and there, I more often use these and this one to hold a plastic card, just to bend it and break it off after scoring it on a straight line. So what am I using? Mainly I'm using those pegs that have been angled off, cut off with a hacksaw at a bit of an angle, and they are the stronger spring variety. You get pretty weak ones as well, and I use them extensively for spraying. So I will often be holding parts and get them ready for spraying, and I'd easily have 20 or 30 pegs ready. I can also use that for getting things ready for gluing. I'd say those are a very, very common tool of mine. To dust off, to clean the file, to clean areas of the workbench. So this big brush is a common one, and I'm not going to speak about the small brushes yet. That'll be a separate video. Right, so that now we've got a slightly more condensed set of tools here to talk about. The file, which this one is a pretty sharp one, but this one is just so much better, except that it buckles and breaks, and you can see the damage that it picks up on its cutting surface. And I can't remember what this came with. If you can get a couple of, I think it's almost regarded as a disposable item, this some form of plastic razor saw. Otherwise this one, or otherwise just scoring and cutting the plastic card. So let's get that out the way. Another material, the inevitable Tamiya putty. This one has already hardened to the point where it's way harder, much more putty-like than a new one. The new ones are almost runny when you open them. Not runny to the point where it runs off the part, but quite a difference. So it actually gradually loses its solvent inside. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. The clippers. This one, Tamiya clippers. And what I was trying to just show in the earlier videos, how thin they are compared to normal side cutters. So these normal side cutters are really not great for cutting parts off. That is definitely the thing, and one of the most useful tools. Okay, what does that leave us with? The glass syringe, which I spoke about and said that it's awesome for turpentine, thinners, paint, whatever. You do need to clean it properly, otherwise that's going to be absolutely ruined. But it saves you from messing up your paint tins, or for instance, when I'm trying to get thinners out of my huge bottle. Okay. Stretched sprue, a very, very common item. I've stretched that with a bit of heat and then cut it off, so that in the event that one of my other favorites, which is the toothpicks, I can use that as well to put pieces on, again for spraying purposes. So I'd often be holding parts where little holes are available with either that or that. Sometimes with certain small parts, you can even glue them with a very small amount of glue to the stretched sprue for painting purposes and working purposes. It's pretty easy to remove them afterwards. But stretched sprue, that's flat, almost a square type of sprue, round sprues. The bits of sandpaper, which are cut into squares, and as you will inevitably do, use a lot more of the edges, and you can just slice it off and freshen it up. I mean, you can just use new stuff all the time, but the edges is what wears out most of the time. Okay, that's done. The rivet tool, I bought 2 different types and I have used them. Very, very good. I don't know if you can make out the toothed wheel inside there, which you run along the plastic surface, and you can do a very nice re-riveting of a surface. I have a small handled X-Acto and a thicker handled X-Acto, into which I put medical scalpel blades. If you can get expired medical stock, that is what I've done, and I have medical blades, scalpel blades, to use forever. I would never use the hobby stuff, which just gets blunt and is a bit thicker. Metal rule, most commonly for plastic card scoring, or even scoring on a model surface, although this one's not very flexible, so you're not going to make it across curved surfaces. I keep the toothpicks and have quite a good collection there, and I often use good 10 or 20, and you stick them into a bit of sponge for spraying purposes. I think they call this one a rat's tail file. I was lucky enough to get one. I don't think they're the easiest ones to find. I sometimes need to use that, quite handy to have. General purpose larger fine flat file for flatting surfaces before gluing. The small general purpose file, round file, and a variety of rods. So this one I will use for picking up pieces, very small pieces, which you can use to help you when you're trying to glue that in position. almost better than a tweezers there. For stirring paints and mixing it in the bottle, so you've got a bit of paint on there, put a bit of thinners in there, and I mix it with this. Nice and easy to clean and does a good job. And in the Humbrol tins, if I've opened that, I'll often use this small steel rod to stir so that you don't have a huge amount of paint getting lost. So I'm quite I use these metal rods quite a bit, and I think that brings us to the end of what we needed to speak about. The collection of pegs looks like that. Okay, give a shout in the comments if you needed any discussion on other tools.